Okay, everybody, it's me, Gregory Mannarino. It is Sunday, October 2nd, 2022. People, sit down and relax. A lot of stuff I want to cover with you today. But I want to start off with this. If you pay even the slightest bit of attention to any of the mainstream propaganda, ministry, financial shows, there's several common themes, okay? But one is overriding lately, and that is they're all talking about the dollar strength, dollar strength, dollar strength. This is extremely misleading in my view, okay? What they're not telling you when they're referring to dollar strength, okay, is they're talking about the relative strength, which I cover virtually every single day. In other words, the dollar value compared to other currencies. Yes, this phenomenon of the relative strength of the dollar climbing is something you have been so far ahead of the curve on, it's not even funny. Right here on this video blog, over a year ago, I explained how this phenomenon of the relative strength of the dollar looked like it was going to continue to me, and absolutely that has played out to be true. But I think this is, like I said, very misleading, and it's deceptive. Because look, clearly we are in a global environment of roaring, surging, skyrocketing inflation. Now, if in fact the dollar and other currencies were just so strong, you would not be seeing this phenomenon take place. You know, I know, and I would hope most people, well, who follow this blog at least, understand that the issue here is we are in a global currency collapse with regard to purchasing power. It has nothing to do with the lie that they continue to shove down your throat, fist feed and everything else with regard to, the central banks are going to raise rates. Yes, and that's really going to fight inflation. People, central banks have been doing this for months and months and months now, raising rates, raising the overnight rate. And what is happening? What did we just find out last week? Inflation continues to rage higher globally. So, when are people going to wake up? Obviously this is not working. Raising rates is not going to do a damn thing. You and I knew this from day one. We discussed it right here, how this would not do anything. Again, what's the issue? It has nothing to do with rates. It's currencies collectively that are losing their purchasing power, and henceforth why we're seeing inflation. But again, it just disturbs me to the highest possible order that not one mainstream media, propaganda ministry, financial freaking dog shit, channel is telling people that it's an issue of the currency itself. It's not a rate issue, but you're never going to hear this. Again, it's all about deceptions, distractions. Look here, don't look here. For how many years, some of you have been with me for a very long time, I've explained to you how they play the game. Look here, don't look here. So what they're doing right now is telling you, oh, look at what central banks are doing. They're raising rates because they really want to fight inflation, but they're not telling you at all how this is a currency issue, a race to the bottom. People, you know this better than anyone. I've been telling you, for how many years now have you heard me explain to you that central banks are in a race to the bottom? They're all deliberately trying to kill their currencies. It's not going to stop. And this mechanism here, sending billions of dollars over here, funding this project with more billions of dollars that we don't have, is massively inflationary. Understanding the mechanism here, people, every single fiat bill that is added to the current existing pool of bills is inflationary. How does a currency get its purchasing power? If you're new here, I'm going to tell you right now, it's either another thing you're never going to learn. When the Federal Reserve makes a dollar, when they create it out of thin air, printed it or digitally create it, it doesn't automatically become worth a dollar. It has to steal a fraction of 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 purchasing power from every other existing bill. So when you hear about, billions of dollars going to fund a war, billions of dollars going to this, project from Congress or this, whatever it might be, understand it's inflationary, and central banks are on a mission to continue to inflate. Forget about anything else. That is the goal of every single central bank on this planet, to use their asset. They have one asset, and it's their own asset. It's not ours. That is the currency that they create out of thin air and disperse to the world, which you don't even own, people. All those dollars, all those euros, whatever currency you may have in your lovely bank account or in your lovely wallet, it's not yours. It's issued by a central bank. It's owned by that central bank. It's owed back to the issuing central bank, plus interest that they create out of thin air. Imagine that scenario. It's real, and that's the truth here. And I'll tell you something else about central banks. And I've had a lot of pushback on this lately. Greg, you're wrong. Central banks are a part of the government. Absolutely not. The Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express, okay? They're not part of the government. These central banks are private entities, and we, the people of the world, have allowed these institutions to take over the entire financial system and therefore the economy. And these central banks are determined to destroy the global economy, to wipe out an entire class of people. That's what's going on here. Okay, it's in your face. I've been warning about this for an entire decade. And here we go. We're starting to see it really get going. People who are stuck here in the middle class cannot make ends meet. They're borrowing beyond their eyeballs. Personal debt, consumer debt, household debt out of control. Getting worse. The savings rate is in the negative here. People can't pay their bills, utilities. I mean, all the stuff that you and I have discussed for years. Well, it's right here, right now. Now, with all of that, and I covered a whole bunch here, let's look back over on this market. Okay, we just finished a negative quarter with regard to the stock market here in the United States. Global equity markets are not doing well here. Okay, there's several factors that are playing into this. Okay. The number one thing is this issue in the bond market, people. I cannot stress to you yet again the enormity of this problem. Okay, global bond yields. We watched a crazy phenomenon take place. Let's talk about that. Okay, Bank of England says, hey, you know what? They blink. Bank of England blinked, decided to institute another round of quantitative easing. They're going to buy it all and do whatever it takes. Okay, so we watched, just for example, the U.S. 10-year yield here, which was a little over 4%, drop 30 basis points in a matter of a couple of days. That's historic. Okay, from let's just round out these numbers, 4% to like a 3.7. Okay, market got all giddy, orgasmic over it. Oh yeah. Okay, and then all of a sudden, it lasted one day. Bond yield started to climb. 10-year yield now 3.82. We're continuing to see the phenomenon of the relative strength of the dollar gain as other currencies free fall faster. Look, the US dollar remains the knee-jerk reaction, the prettiest bell at the ball, and that's why the US dollar is going to continue, in my view at least for now, to continue its upward trajectory, especially, people, if we continue to see global bonds sell off. Now, the enormity of the problem is very simple. If you're new here, let me cover it real quick. The debt market itself is a monster. It's a Frankenstein monster. It poses the greatest threat to human life, worse than anything you can imagine. Global warming, it doesn't even compare. Nuclear war doesn't even compare to the event that will unfold as the global debt bubble implodes on all of us and crushes us to death here. Lockup of the financial system, resources becoming unavailable, crazy inflation. Okay, that's how that will play out, and it's going to destroy global stock markets. This is all a setup. This is how all the pieces are lining up, and it's been going on this way for quite a long time, leading up to a climax, people. That moment that I've spoken about since forever, maximum saturation, and we're seeing that now. What am I talking about? Central banks here on a mission to inflate and therefore create inflation here, destroy the global economy, is playing out already. The moment of maximum saturation is when inflating the debt becomes an untenable situation because of skyrocketing inflation. Eventually, the implosion of the debt market will occur. That's it. And we're already seeing the effects of it globally as bonds are selling off, inflation continues to rise. So we're on the cusp of this here. And clearly we are in the middle, or right at the early stages, I would believe, and this is the truth, of a global currency collapse. Understand? All by design, nothing here is by accident. So, what can we take away from this? If we understand that, and I've covered this a gazillion times, that the stock market, housing, real estate, all of this derives value from action in the debt market, and the debt market is a ticking time bomb. You got to be on the opposite side of that trade here, meaning you need to be in hard assets, physical gold, silver. I know a lot of you hate to hear me say this, but I still believe cryptocurrencies are going to benefit when the debt market implosion happens. Okay, we'll address that issue as we get more deeper into this here. Now, where's the stock market going? You and I don't have to guess, people. I've made this extremely simple for you. If we see a normalization in the 10-year yield, if we see a normalization with regard to the phenomenon going on with bonds selling off, the stock market will appreciate that. Okay, if we see a normalization here in the value of currencies, in other words, if the currency collapse, which we are in right now, stops or slows down, and it won't. I'm just throwing hypotheticals out here. Central banks are going to kill the currencies, all of them, to bring forth a new system, completely digital, maximum control. And in order to initiate that, they need the current system to implode on itself. This is being driven by design because people aren't going to accept it. You have to understand that. In order for this, for these central banks to get away with what they're doing here, which is, again, killing their currencies, pushing us into a meltdown of the global financial system via an implosion in the debt market here, crushing global equity markets or stock markets here, creating an environment where resources are not available to people, basic necessities. The outcry is going to be unbelievable in the streets. People are going to take to the streets finally, and then they're going to ask for a solution. Okay, we're in a crisis. We're in a crisis. Help us, please. And of course, they're going to. This is the setup here. This is how it's being set up. Should be clear to you. Okay. So understanding that, you got to be in the right spots here, betting against the debt, becoming your own central bank, holding hard assets, have some crypto in your portfolio as well. Okay, realizing that risk on, meaning cash moving into equities, is going to turn off. To risk off, cash is just going to move. Debt market implosion crushes stocks, cash moves into commodities. That's the scenario. That's how it will work. Period. Should be simple. So for now, you're in this market here. Okay, I already told you, you got to take up some kind of protection if you're long the market, meaning protective puts, high dividend paying asset here, something along those lines, or get out of the market. Okay, look, the MMRI, Mannarino Market Risk Indicator, hit several all-time record highs recently, and then it came down after the Bank of England institutes quantitative easing. See how it works? Very simple. So by you and I knowing where to look, we don't have to guess when the big crash is going to come, okay? Follow the 10-year yield, relative strength of the dollar, better yet, Mannarino Market Risk Indicator, link in the description of this video. Like I said, there's no guesswork here for you and I. You and I, honestly, I think have the best perspective on this market than anybody else because we know where to look. We know the grand plan. We know what they're doing. Okay, by understanding these things, it allows us to be ready for it. And you always, always, always have to have the high ground. Always, okay? You want to sit back and say, oh, this is the worst case scenario is never going to happen. Then good, sit back and do nothing. And, in the event that a worst case scenario does unfold, and it's unfolding right now, clearly, you're ready for it. Okay, mentally, spiritually, physically, every way you can think about. You understand? I think you do. All right, people, look, I covered a lot today with you, very important stuff. I want you to ponder these things, think about it, and look, don't take my word for anything here. Does this make sense to you? What I've been explaining since time immemorial, okay, and what the scenarios I've covered here, does this click with you? Does it make sense to you? Are you seeing what I believe is going on, or am I totally disconnected from reality? Anyway, I do want to hear from you. I want you to please comment. With that said, people, look, you know what today is? As I said, it's the 2nd. Generally on the 1st of every month or the beginning of every month, I humbly ask for your support. Hey, Greg, you're doing a great job. I'm out here 2 times a day, twice during the week, every Monday through Friday doing a video. And I do here one on Sunday, markets to look ahead for you. I want to keep you ahead of the curve, but I'm asking you to please support my work. Greg, you're doing a great job. All I ask for is $5 a month, $5. There's a link in the description of this video. Click on that. Send me $5. I would greatly appreciate that. If you don't like using that link, if you look down here, there's a little heart with a $sign. You can click on that too. And I would greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate your support here. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm here supporting you. I hope you support my work. I'm counting on you to do that. And with that said, people, I will see all of you in the morning. And we're going to start off another freak show week. Love you a lot. See you in the morning.